Hi, welcome to the Glopo class. Today we are going to study case study, right? You know where you can use the case study. If you do not know, just watch my some of the videos where I have mentioned to write a good paper. It could be your paper 2, it could be your HLX, or even paper 1 question 4 as well. Even for question 2 they ask one example from your side. So to have a good grasp, you need to know a number of good case study. So today here we are gonna take up the case study of Mali conflict and Danish military intervention. Danish, that means Denmark, military intervention. The case study today, what I am going to cover, it is in the format of your HLX. Okay, what is HLX? Your higher level extension, which is your IA. This is only for HL students, right? Though this case study would be useful for SL as well, but the format what I'm gonna follow today, it's of HL format. Now, if I talk in terms of research question, or you may call it political issue, then it is to what extent do national interests of Denmark affect the country's involvement in Mali. All right, so this is the political issue or research question for this one. Now further to this one, when we are starting, so that time first we need to think what should be the global political challenge. How many global political challenge do you have? 6, right? You have 6 global political challenge. So you have to decide one out of 6. You can't decide 2, just 1. All right. So in terms of the global political challenge, we see that national interests often affect the international community's ability to promote local security. So this is individual national interest of different countries. Hence, I'm talking more at the level of security, which is your GPC. All right, so far so clear this one. Now further, when we start after connecting the GPC, we start with the background, right? So in terms of the situation in Mali, it started in 2012 when Tuareg nationalist in northern Mali, which is the country next to Mauritania, started a rebellion as well as with other extremist Islamic group in northern Mali, and one or two established their own states. So they started moving south, trying to take the capital of Mali. The conflict can be actually attributed to the Arab Spring. Which year? 2011, which occurred in northern Africa. Here we see the general countries that have been affected through different civil wars, different protests, and we see that Mali is right next to 2 major ones. Can you guess which one? So in that sense, a lot of people say that the Arab Spring actually bled over borders and therefore affected Mali. Which are those two countries? You tell me the name about those two countries, okay? So background, we are talking the impact of Arab Spring and the fight over this northern and southern Mali, right? Okay. Islamic extremist is also an important factor in considering the conflict in Mali. Islamic extremists. Okay. So first one is Arab Spring, then the second one is Islamic extremist. Al-Qaeda, for example. Al-Qaeda, for example, affiliates itself with the Ansar Dine, which is one of the extremist Islamic group that are part of the whole Tuareg rebellion. Gaddafi's fall also caused the Al-Qaeda to be able to have a gun trade along the Sahel region in northern Africa, which also prompted the rise of rebels in northern Mali, which is connected to this region. In terms of international intervention, 2000 international intervention, then you see that in 2016 Denmark responded to the UN call to arms, donating 30 special troops, 30 staff officers, as well as other supports, and also talks to extending that aid. The nature of the unrest is a threat to global security. Therefore, the stakeholders are the United Nations, Denmark, as well as P5 in general. Okay, P5 in general. So this is about the Islamic, the background image of this one. Now we go further. Now, when regarding Denmark's involvement or intervention, we can regard it through two different perspectives. Okay, so this is Denmark, and there are the two different perspectives. First point, from a liberal perspective. Liberal perspective. From the international community's position, this is when we regard the involvement from a liberalist perspective. So Mali can be viewed as a global threat. As a global threat in this case. When we talk about regionalism, we talk about regional trends. So here we see that this general regional trend of insecurity in northern Africa, right, as well as extremism, which again moves over borders to Mali. Mali is actually one of the severest conflicts in terms of peacekeeping for the United Nations. So in this sense, promoting security in Mali would actually provide regional security. Regional security as well as security for the whole world. So in that sense, Mali can almost be regarded as a proxy conflict. So that means Mali is a proxy conflict to generate regional stability. Alright, so proxy conflict to generate regional security or stability. This is what the liberal perspective talks about. Now the second, okay, this is the second one. Let's go to the second one. Second perspective, UN troops are non-violent and therefore there is a need for hard power to complement UN efforts. So Denmark is justified in its involvement. All right. So usage of hard power. That's the second perspective. In terms of international interests, in this case, we see that the United Nations is an important stakeholder. Right? As they would like to promote global security, and the Security Council is therefore also an important stakeholder and actually passed a resolution number 2164. Resolution number 2164, which initiated the start of MINUSMA. Okay, which is the UN peacekeeping mission, UNPKF. This is the mission's name, right? This is the mission's name in Mali. Their initial goal was actually to safeguard citizens, so it was actually to promote peace. This means that they were supposed to use non-violent methods such as peaceful discussions with rebels. However, this started in 2013. But in 2015 or 14, more than 15, it actually conflict escalated since 2014, right? It started in 2013, but conflict started escalating since 2014. The current toll is 53 from the start of the peacekeeping mission, which is the highest of all peacekeeping missions for the UN. So we see that this is because of the rise of jihadism and the spread of general unrest in Mali. As a result, this changed the MINUSMA's mission to eradicate violent insurgents. According to Jeff Laurenti, who is UN specialist. So we see here that primarily the UN troops in Mali are peacekeeping troops. So again, non-violent methods. However, given the situation, we could argue that hard power is needed. Therefore, there might be also a need for foreign troops, as peacekeeping troops are not equipped to deal with the situation. So given the idea that the international community acts together and Denmark is a part of the international community, this justifies their military involvement in Mali. So this one is to justify Denmark's stand to use hard power. Alright, so far so clear. Now we go to the another point where we talk about third point. Are you clear? First point was on liberalism. Second point, hard power. And now third point is on human rights. Human rights. In terms of human rights, this is the foundation of the international community and has been a core purpose of the United Nations since its foundation. Right? So the violation of human rights in Mali are not always documented, but they are generally discussed. So in that sense, the military involvement of the United Nations in Mali is due to the fact that they are duty bound to uphold and protect human rights in order to promote global peace. Okay, so the role of United Nations over here. Now we discuss about the concepts, key concepts which are attached to this case study. Number one is legitimacy. This, the idea of legitimacy is the UN would be defending their own values. Denmark, as a valid international actor and a part of the international community of the UN, would therefore also argue for the military involvement as defending human rights and defending the international community's values. Denmark in the past has been very military active in terms of international affairs, that they are in global security. We see this, for example, in Afghanistan, where proportionate to their population, the action had a higher death toll on soldiers than the US and the UK. However, this trend of military activism, as well as the idea of promoting global security, can also be seen from a realist perspective. In this case, we see that Danish legitimacy can be argued from a national perspective. Denmark can be seen as an actor on the global level. So, military activity and the use of hard power, which promotes their influence. Additionally, we see that military budget cuts have actually influenced Denmark's military ability. As a result, this undermines their legitimacy and power. So, military activism in Mali would promote legitimacy on a global scale, right? We actually see Denmark in NATO, that their position has been threatened due to lack of capabilities, due to budget cuts, according to former chairman of NATO military community. So Denmark's legitimacy is also important in terms of self-interest in order to promote future security. In that sense, in order to promote this well-being of their citizens, and this is where we see the idea of bandwagoning. This is when smaller nations support larger nations in order to promote future security in case they need it. So here we see that France has colonial interest in Mali as well as US in order to expel jihadism. So Denmark, by supporting these major countries, would actually be securing their future security from the great sphere of Russia, who they have a lot of tension of late, right? So I hope you understand legitimacy. Then perspective of national interest. Perspective of national interest. We can also regard the situation from the national interest perspective on a refugee crisis basis. So here we see in general that conflict in North Africa, for example, Libya, Sudan, they actually promoted a refugee crisis. And the Malian crisis could also well promote a similar thing. And according to the 1954 Convention of Refugees, Convention of Refugees, we see that nations actually are supposed to give financial support, the same financial support they give to the citizen as the refugees in their country. Denmark is a socialist country and gives a lot of financial support to its citizens. Therefore, a refugee crisis would adversely affect them. Now, finally, conclusion. So you saw that multiple perspectives we are covering, right? Now, in conclusion, we see that national interest in terms of legitimacy, self-interest to promote security, bandwagoning, and the refugee crisis could prompt Denmark to militarily intervene in Mali. However, from the liberalist, it can also be argued that the initial intervention can also be argued in terms of the international community's intervention. So from the liberalist perspective, and this is where regional trends might focus, affect global security. Addition, there is the responsibility to protect and the responsibility to defend community rights. In terms of the challenge faced elsewhere, we see that the international community elsewhere relies on the international participation of everyone to donate troops as well as other types of support and national interest and affect the countries of involvement in several United Nations missions. And from a realist perspective, we see that the bandwagoning, so when smaller nations supporting larger nations, is a foundation of the international community's intervention in other countries, and therefore national interest play a huge role in the international community's involvement. Clear? So whatever we covered, we discuss that in the conclusion. So this is about the case study.